Hey everyone, it's the morning of March 8th, and I just want to give a quick overview and do some stage setting for the second Tier 1 North American Amateur Tournament that's starting later today, the Giant Slayer Spring Gauntlet. So we've already had the first of the three Tier 1 tournaments, Unified Grand Prix, wrapped up last week, and it sent forth teams through to Proving Grounds. We had No Org, Solafide, Zeus Gaming, and TSM Academy make it through into Proving Grounds to join the top 6 Academy teams in the regular season. Now, in this tournament, the top 4 teams also are going to qualify through, and then there's only one more chance after that for 2 more teams to qualify through the last chance tournament after this. So this one's really important, and it's especially important because we had a few different teams in the last tournament drop out early, much earlier than expected. So this is a really strong field. And so I want to lay the table for who are the teams participating, how's this going to work, what are some expectations we can set for the event. So it starts this afternoon, and there's first a play-in round of best of threes. This whole tournament is best of threes up until the grand finals, which are a best of 5. We have Evil Genius's Prodigies, one of the teams that lost very early last tournament and were expected to do a lot better. So they're playing up against Revival. We have Maryville University against Mirage. We have Barrage, which are another one of those teams that really were expected to go really deep and maybe even qualify through last time, but they dropped out early. They were upset by C9 Academy. They're playing up against Supernova. And then we have, by C9 Amateur, I should say. C9 Amateur are playing here against Wildcard. And then we have the top 4 seeded teams waiting for them in the next round already. Golden Guardians Academy, Winthrop University, Evil Geniuses Academy, and CLG Academy. So we have 3 Academy teams in this since CLG Academy failed to make it through last tournament. And that has some knock-on effects and makes the field more difficult this time around. So let's look at also the format a little. There's a losers bracket for this one. So the losers of that first round will drop through to play quarterfinal losers, and then they'll have to play all the way through to get back into the grand final, which can be pretty important. No Org made a run through the lower bracket in the last tournament, so you never know. So laying the stage a little bit, Evil Geniuses Prodigies against Revival. Now this is a series that I would have been a lot more hyped about, and I still think it could be very interesting, but there's a problem for Revival in that two of their best players, honestly, Scooped and Plux, have both been banned. I'm sure you could look around and figure out the reason why, but I won't go into it. They're both banned for this tournament, and I believe for the next one as well. So Revival are playing with replacements. It's going to be pretty difficult for them to adjust, but there's always a chance. Evil Geniuses Prodigies should, even with the full Revival roster, EGP should be favorites in this match. They haven't really been showing it recently. They fell out early, as I said, in the last tournament. Had some play that just wasn't up to their standards or their expectations. Now, I'm hoping that the break they had while that tournament continued on and the scrim time and practice time they had are going to be beneficial for them. And I also think that both for them and for the Evil Geniuses Academy team, I think having Peter Dunn in NA for the last couple of weeks will hopefully have been beneficial for them, whether he's working directly with them or just freeing up some other staff to be more dedicated to the Academy and amateur level. I'm definitely pay attention if you're not familiar to Shiro, Tomio, and Surti are the 3 players on EGP that are really, really interesting to me, and that I'd encourage you to watch and pay close attention to. And Sudsy and Concept of X on the Revival side are the ones who kind of catch my eye there. Again, they're still going to be interesting to watch. I think EGP should take this series pretty handily, but Revival have some good players that could surprise us. In the next match, Maryville University against Mirage. It's in many ways the Chippies show, coming over from the OPL and showing he's on a bit of a different level than the rest of the amateur scene, but it wasn't enough in the last tournament to carry them through as deep as they wanted to go. Evan RL is another interesting player on that team that I've been keeping a bit of an eye on. On the Mirage side, Meech is probably their best player from what I've seen. Dragoon is interesting in the top lane. He likes to play Darius and some other weird stuff like that. So it should be a fun series. I think Chippies and Dragoon will be an enjoyable one to kind of figure out what happens in that matchup. But Maryville should comfortably handle this one. You can see in the seeding difference, this should be a pretty clear favorite scenario. Barrage, again, they're out for revenge. They do not want to drop out in the first round of a tournament again. They should very handily get through this one. They would be expected to be a top 3 amateur team along with No Org and Solafide, so last tournament was a little embarrassing, and I think they're going to be out to make a run, and we should expect them to go through in the top 4 of this tournament. Anything less than that would be really disappointing. Supernova do have Strompist, who's an interesting player to watch. They're also borrowing Julian from Maryville University's second team, because their normal support G Bunny is taking a break for some health reasons. So that's another reason, again, Barrage should, have that extra comfort level and be able to move through this one without too much trouble. Now, C9 Amateur against Wildcard. Again, C9 Amateur, a much higher seed. That might be a little bit deceptive because they did earn some higher seeding by getting that huge upset last tournament and taking down Barrage. They've got some pretty good players. Wixie is really good. XU has some big moments and also, but some inconsistency that he needs to work through. So those two players on C9 Amateur are pretty fun to watch. Breezy has been getting more comfortable, and he and Wixie forming a better pairing after Breezy came into the team. C9 Amateur should be the favorites in this one. Wildcard do have Team Luke, who's a very good player. I think he's one of the stronger prospects in the amateur scene. Daption is interesting to watch. They make a good pairing, and I think they can match on the bottom lane. Losing Trickster to suspension for Wildcard, I think did throw them off, but it's been a little while now, so I think it shouldn't be too much. It's not a main storyline for them anymore, but it is there. It's not, the lineup they intended to be going with or expected to be going with. So this is one where, a 6 seed versus an 11 seed, it's probably not as big a gap as that, but seeing an amateur, again, they should be favored. You just never know if Wildcard, maybe with good preparation, which they have shown in the past, they've taken down better teams with stronger prep. They might be able to take down this match. I'd say that this one might, to me, be the closest of the first round. But we'll see what happens there. On the top 4 side, so Golden Guardians Academy have played in amateur tournaments, by choice. They're the only academy team that actually went out and played in Tier 2 tournaments, which they had the opportunity to do, and none of the other academy teams wanted to spend their time on that. They won some matches. They also dropped a couple. So this is a team that has shown that, they're not a big notch above the entire amateur scene. It's possible that they struggle to get through this one. They've also had a lot of time to work on those things, and, the stakes are higher this time around. So, I don't think the story of their previous Tier 2 matches is going to be the entire predictor of their future in this tournament. But, we do need to watch and see if they've been able to use their time well, and if once it becomes time for the wins to really matter and actually count, can they put together their best game and, not just play to learn so much. This is the time to play to win. You got to get through so you get those games in the Proving Grounds tournament and learn in those ones if you have to. Don't use this tournament as your learning ground, in my opinion. Win it out, gain some confidence, and, be a little looser in Proving Grounds, in my opinion. You've also got Winthrop University. They've been one of the most surprising stories so far. I don't think anybody, well, not very many people at least, expected them to make the run they made in the Unified Grand Prix, but they've really been the Doxa show in the mid lane. I think he's a really exciting player to watch. I'm looking forward to seeing more of his games this tournament. Depending who he comes up against, it looks like he'll be up against either Maryville or Mirage. I think he's got the advantage over most of the mid laners in this tournament. I haven't made a list or anything of who I think might be able to match him, but there are some. And I think it would be a little surprising to me if they made quite as deep of a run this time around. They do have an opportunity to break into that top 4. I think this field is a little weaker than, we've pulled NoOrg and Solafide out of this. We pulled TSM Academy out of this. So I think Winthrop do have a chance to make it through this, but it would be another surprise to me. Evil Geniuses Academy, in the Academy regular season, they were honestly pretty disappointing compared to my expectations for them. I had much higher expectations. They have a ton of skill. Jojo Pion is the player that I've really, really been excited to watch there. I think Tony Top also has a ton of skill and is fun to watch. And again, as I mentioned with EGP, Peter Dunn being around and his actual physical presence, I think will be helpful and hopefully has benefited them as they've had a few weeks to practice and to work on themselves. And I still have a lot higher expectations than what we've seen so far. I think they should at least be a top half Academy team. So if they don't, win out to at least the top 2 of this tournament, I think I'll be pretty disappointed. And that's kind of the expectations we set for them. But they're most likely going to be up against Barrage in their first match. So that's already going to be maybe the most hype match of the tournament when it happens. CLG Academy fell out of the last tournament. And this is a chance for them to redeem themselves. They can't fall out of this tournament too. That would be absolute failure. So I hope that mentally they're ready for this one and that they aren't, carrying that loss with them too much. I think they are good enough to make it through this one. And honestly, I think overall expectations for this tournament should be that the 3 academy teams plus Barrage get through in the end. That's what would be kind of the baseline default of expectations. You never know what might actually happen with it. I think if something deviates from that plan, the most likely is that either EGP or Winthrop will steal Golden Guardians Academy's spot. That's my expectation for it. But there are a lot of matches ahead of us. It could play out in a lot of different ways. We saw bigger upsets than that last tournament round, and at this level of play, upsets, in BO3s, especially compared to BO5s, it's a lot easier to get an upset. The style of play here, no lead is safe. A lot of different things get picked and brought into the game, so it's always fun to watch. Again, my baseline expectations are the 3 academy teams, Barrage getting through, but that could be way off. And make sure you stay tuned to twitch.tv/academy for the mainstream. Mad Magical is running a B stream on a lot of these series, so stay tuned. You can catch some of the information on this as well on esports.mobalytics.gg, which is an amateur-specific portal that we're working on putting together. So follow along with the tournament. I think it's going to be a ton of fun, and I'll try to keep you guys updated on my thoughts as we go through as well.